Hey threadheads, Darren here. Welcome back to another fly tying tutorial. Today we're going to be tying a pattern called the Johhny Flash. This is a nice little simple midge pattern, and it's created by fly tyer Johnny Gomez. And we're going to be tying this today in a size 16, but typically we're going to be looking to tie these for fishing in sizes 18 down to 24. It's a pretty simple fly. There's not too much to it. It's basically tail, body, a thorax, and a shellback, which is represented by a little touch of flash. You can tie this in a number of different variations, such as the chocolate version we're going to be doing here. You can also do black, gray dun, and olive. Those seem to be the most popular. So this is a great pattern to use as a dropper on small streams or in late season fishing. Like right about now is probably a great time to try tying these up in some of the smaller sizes in size 20, 22 and giving it a whirl in the stream. Don't forget to leave a comment down below and I'll get your name entered into our next draw for some stickers and some of the flies we tie on the channel. Let's have a look at the material list and get started. Alright, let's get a fresh hook in the vise. So today I'm going to be using a Firehole barbless hook, and we're going to be using model number 315, and I'm going to be tying this in a size 16 today, but as I said earlier, you probably want to start around a size 18 and tie down to about a 24 or so. For thread, we're going to be using an 8/0 rusty brown. And this is the UTC 70D. And this lays nice and flat. This will make a nice body. We'll just start in behind the eye and we'll take our thread about halfway, snip off the tag end. Then we're going to find a nice pheasant tail. And we're going to strip off somewhere between 3 and 4 of these tail fibers. If you're tying in the smaller sizes, you might even want to go down to just 2 perhaps. But for this size, we're going to use 4 for this one. And we're just going to tie those on. We're going to measure that, and I like the tail to be about the length of the shank, give or take. And we'll just tie those on. We'll make sure that we try and keep those fibers on top of the hook shank just so that they lay straight off the back end of that fly. And we'll just take touching turns down to the point where we want to end our body, and then we'll kind of wrap up. We want to put a little bit of a taper into this, not too much, and with a 70D thread it'll take a while to actually put in that taper, so we'll just kind of go back and forth a couple times just to put a slight taper into that fly. And for the tag ends of those pheasant tails, you can simply just rip them off or you can cut them. Make sure you have them tied down fairly well before you go ahead and rip them off so you don't pull your tail right off your fly. So for the shellback and the legs, we're going to take a single piece of crystal flash. We'll double that over, cut it in half. So we have 2, and then we'll take those, double them over, and cut them in half again so we have 4 strands. That way we'll be able to get a fly out of just 1 strand of crystal flash. We'll tie those in on top of the hook shank, right behind the eye. And you'll want to make sure you go ahead and trim those ends here. And I didn't do it quite as well as I should have. It's a little bit tricky tying behind the camera. So for dubbing for this fly, I'm going to be using a little bit of the dubbing that I made in my dubbing box video. This is a mixture of brown dubbing with a little bit of copper Angelina mixed in. You just want to make sure that you don't have any fibers that are too long in this fly. And the amount of flash that I have in the dubbing is pretty minimal. We'll go ahead and we'll just create a small dubbing noodle here. You don't need too much for this. This is a midge fly, so we want to keep it fairly small and compact. We'll go ahead and we'll twist that dubbing on there. We just want to make a nice, neat little dubbing ball. And just be conscious of the amount of space you have at the eye. So once you have that, we're going to go ahead and put a half hitch in there just so we don't bump our thread off and ruin the fly. And cut away any longer pieces of dubbing or flash in the from the thorax. And then we're going to take all 4 of those pearl crystal flash fibers or pieces and just pull those forward, and we'll tie those off right at the eye. We'll give a couple wraps, and then we're going to separate that so that we've got 2 strands coming off on each side. And I like to try and get those at the side of the eyes if I can. So we'll just go ahead and we'll wrap with our thread over top of those, just to bind them down to the side. And once we got those in place, we'll go ahead and grab our whip finish tool and throw a whip finish onto this fly. And so one thing that I've started doing with small flies like this is just using a little bit of the Solarez bone dry. If you don't have the bone dry, go ahead and use your normal head cement. But for the bone dry, if these legs get a little out of place, you can apply your bone dry and pull the legs into position and then zap it with the UV light, and that way your legs will kind of be frozen in position with the UV resin. So it gives you a little bit of wiggle room. So we go ahead and we set that UV. Now all we need to do is just pull those legs all back together, and we'll give that a little snip. And you can see from the top, just slightly longer, maybe 1.5 thorax lengths. You can trim those down a little bit more if you need to. But there you go. There's the chocolate version of the Flash, or the Johhny Flash. Hey fly tiers, thanks for stopping by and checking out my fly tying videos. If you enjoyed the video and want to show your support, hit the thumbs up and share it to your social networks. I hope you consider subscribing to the channel, and if you do, be sure to hit the bell icon to get notifications on my latest fly patterns, tips, and reviews. If you have a question or comment, leave a message below. You'll also be entered into the next draw for some of the flies I tie and a few stickers. Until next time, this is Darren saying, keep a hook in your vise. Cheers.